You wake up to the sound of breathing, not your own. Around you, dozens of men sleep, or pretend to, their breath thick, heavy, rising like steam in the cold dawn. The straw beneath you is damp. It always is. Some mornings you hope it's just the morning dew. Other mornings you know better. The rough blanket clings to your skin, scratchy with filth, stiff from nights of sweat, dirt, and other things you stopped naming long ago. Your stomach murmurs. It doesn't growl anymore. It learned there's little point. Hunger is not an event here. It is the weather. Constant, lingering, predictable. You stare into the dim gray light bleeding through a crack in the wooden door. Beyond that door lies the world you volunteered for, or were convinced into, after too many mugs of weak ale and one sermon that sounded convincing at the time. What if history forgot you? What if you fought, starved, marched, and died? Only to become another nameless man buried beneath the endless dirt of someone else's glory. The question hangs there, quiet. You were promised salvation, forgiveness for sins you still pretend weren't yours. You were promised gold, honor, perhaps even adventure. You were not promised this. The air smells of damp wool, old leather, and something sour, sweat and fear fermenting together. The man beside you coughs in his sleep, wet and deep like a broken bellows. The wooden ceiling above you bows slightly, heavy with years of rot. The beams creak softly, almost in sympathy. Somewhere a rat scurries along the rafters, more confident than any man here. The rats always thrive. They have no sermons, no crusades, no sins to wash away, only full bellies. You pull your legs closer to your chest, trying to stay warm. Your feet are bare, cracked at the heels. The thin shoes you were given have already surrendered to the road before the march has even begun. Your eyes drift to the armor leaning beside your bed. If one can call it armor. A patched chainmail shirt, too large at the neck and too tight across the ribs, stained with the sweat of men long dead. You wonder how many wore it before you, how many survived. It smells like rain-soaked iron and something older. Disappointment, perhaps. The sword is dull, blunted at the edge like it's grown tired of killing. The wooden shield, once painted proudly with a red cross, now peels like old skin. Someone carved their initials on the back of it, a man who probably thought he would live long enough to care. You remember when they first handed you these things? They called you a crusader. The word sounded noble, important. You repeated it to yourself that first night, lying on your back under the stars, imagining banners, cheers, parades. But banners are heavy when you carry them for weeks. Cheers are for the nights up front. You are not one of them. You are somewhere behind the nobles and their gleaming horses, behind the priests with their polished crosses, behind the merchants with their wagons full of goods to sell once the blood has dried. You are here, on the damp straw, with the rest of the forgotten. Your journey hasn't even begun, and already your shoulders ache from carrying everything you could not afford to leave behind. A small bag of barley, a hard heel of bread, a worn wooden cross carved by your uncle. In the corner, Gerald snores, loud, sharp bursts that rattle his whole chest. Gerald brought a rake as his weapon. He says it's symbolic. You don't ask of what. The horn hasn't sounded yet, but soon it will. And then the march begins. They say it will take months. Across fields, mountains, rivers, through villages that will glare at you as you trample their crops and drink from their wells. Some will smile while hiding their knives. Others will spit openly. None of them care for your cause. But you march anyway. Because salvation is waiting at the end, or so you've been told. Jerusalem. A city you couldn't find on a map if you'd ever seen one. You close your eyes for a moment, hoping for sleep to pull you back under. But even your dreams have grown thin. They smell like sweat and old iron too. Tomorrow, you will rise. You will march. You will carry your hunger and your borrowed sword, and you will wonder, quietly, what if you had just stayed home that day? The horn sounds at first light. Not a grand trumpet, just a hollow wooden blast that echoes across the camp, as if the wind itself is too tired to carry the sound far. You open your eyes. The familiar ache settles over you like a second blanket. Stiff joints, tender feet, the dull throb behind your eyes that never seems to leave. Your stomach remains politely empty. Around you, the others begin to stir. Cloaks are pulled tighter, boots are forced onto swollen feet, and cold hands fumble with belts and straps. No one speaks much. Words require energy. Energy requires food. Gerald stands up slowly, rubbing his back. His rake leans against the wall like a loyal but utterly useless companion. "Today is the day," he mutters. You're not sure which day he means. They all feel the same, but you nod anyway. The priest passes by, blessing each man with a hurried cross drawn in the air. His fingers are stained with ink and oil, his breath carrying the faint trace of sour wine. He mumbles the same words to everyone. Forgiveness is efficient when delivered in bulk. You pick up your chainmail. It's as heavy as you remember. The links clink together like cold teeth. Pulling it over your head feels like crawling into a wet iron sack. The weight presses down on your shoulders, stealing little pieces of your breath. The helmet is worse. Thin metal, dented, rimmed with rust. No padding inside, just hard steel and the promise of a headache. You lower it gently onto your head, feeling the cold press against your scalp like the hand of an impatient ghost. Outside, the sky is a dull gray canvas, hanging low and heavy. The air smells of damp earth and distant cooking fires. The camp stretches in every direction, wagons creaking, oxen groaning, children crying softly under rough woolen hoods. You see the knights mounted up front. Their horses wear better armor than you do. Polished plate gleams under the muted sun, colorful banners flapping gently in the wind. They speak to each other in quiet, bored voices. This is not their first march. Far behind them, merchants organize their carts. Their voices are sharper, arguing over space and weight. Every inch of wagon space is valuable. Bread, wine, dried meats, cloth, coins, things you will never touch. And then there's you, somewhere in the middle of the mass of foot soldiers, the disposable center. You shift your pack, feel the old bread and onions knock against your side. Not much, but it will have to last. The commander calls out. His voice cracks slightly, like he too hasn't eaten properly in days. "Move out!" The march begins. Not with fanfare, not with songs or drums, just the slow, dragging shuffle of thousands of feet sliding across cold mud. The sound is dull, heavy, like rain that never falls but weighs everything down. The road is narrow. It always is. Europe's roads were not built for armies. Some parts aren't roads at all, just trails worn by sheep and desperate merchants. You step carefully, avoiding deep puddles where the mud threatens to steal your shoes forever. Beside you, Gerald hums a tune, off-key, something cheerful that sounds wildly inappropriate. You envy his stupidity some days. After the first mile, your shoulders start to ache. The weight of the chainmail grows heavier with every step. Your neck strains against the pull of the helmet. By the second mile, the blisters on your heels begin to complain, softly at first, then with growing irritation. The wool wraps around your feet are damp, rubbing raw spots into your skin. By the third mile, your stomach offers gentle reminders of its emptiness. You chew on a piece of stale bread. It tastes like old stone. The world narrows to the rhythm of your feet. Step, step, step. Avoid the rock. Step, step. Try not to trip on the man in front of you. Step, step. Hours pass. You have stopped counting.
The landscape offers little distraction. Barren fields, leafless trees, the occasional ruined village. Smoke rises from chimneys in the distance, from homes that lock their doors as you pass. A woman stands beside a well watching your line of men with tired, hollow eyes. She clutches a child against her hip, both of them silent. She doesn't wave. No one does. The nobility speaks of holy purpose, of God's favor, of eternal reward. But here in the mud, God feels very far away. A crow caws above you. You watch it circle for a moment, its wings gliding effortlessly against the gray sky. It will eat well, you think. The crows always do. By midday, the first cart breaks down. The wheel splits, splintering under the weight. A few men gather to fix it, shouting and cursing. The line slows, then stops. You take the opportunity to sit for a moment on a nearby stone. Your legs ache in ways that feel older than your years. The wind slips through your clothes like cold fingers, whispering secrets you don't want to hear. Gerald sits beside you, chewing something. You don't ask what. "You think Jerusalem's even real?" he asks, wiping his mouth with the back of his hand. You don't answer. The cart is fixed. The shouting stops. The march resumes. Another mile, then another. By evening, the camp is made in a clearing. Fires flicker weakly against the creeping dark. You sit by the embers, tearing off bits of dry bread, swallowing without chewing. The hunger is still there, but you've grown used to ignoring it. The wind carries voices, laughter, quiet prayers, arguments. But underneath it all is the steady hum of fear, a low, constant vibration in every man's chest. You stare into the glowing coals, watching them pulse softly like tiny dying suns. Tomorrow will be harder. The road will grow steeper. The supplies will grow thinner. Your feet will bleed. But tonight, at least, you sit. You breathe. You survive. For now. But that is a story for tomorrow night. The morning comes, but not gently. A thin drizzle taps against your face as you open your eyes. The ground beneath you is soft mud now, soaked from the night's quiet rain. Your blanket, if it can still be called that, is damp, sticking to your skin like a wet cloth forgotten in a corner. You sit up slowly. Your back protests, so do your knees. They've both grown louder these last few days, like stubborn old men who never run out of complaints. Gerald sneezes loudly beside you, then wipes his nose on his sleeve. His hair sticks up in wild clumps, wet and matted. The rake leans against a nearby stump, its wooden handle dark with moisture. The camp stirs around you. Quiet grumbles, the rustle of wet cloaks, the faint clink of iron as men lift their chainmail once again. No one talks about how many days have passed. Counting only makes the road feel longer. The breakfast is exactly what you expected. A hunk of bread as hard as dried clay, and a sliver of salted fish that tastes like despair. The bread fights your teeth. The fish fights your stomach. Both are victories you allow them to win. Somewhere ahead, the priests mumble their morning blessings, voices thin against the damp air. The nobles mount their horses without speaking. They sit higher than you, drier than you, fed better than you. You wonder if they even notice the mud sticking to the bottom of your feet, like a second layer of skin you never asked for. The order to march comes sooner today. The commander seems eager, or maybe just cold. And so you walk, again. The path today is narrower, winding through thin woods. The trees stand like quiet witnesses, their bare branches stretching overhead like bony fingers tangled against the gray sky. The mud grips your feet with every step, pulling at your boots as if trying to drag you down. Your blisters, which had begun to harden into quiet, manageable pain, have split open again. Each step feels like walking on burning coals, except wetter. Somewhere behind you, a man begins to sing softly. A hymn, maybe. The melody is thin, wobbly, but strangely comforting. The voices around you slowly join in, some out of faith, some out of boredom. The tune drifts through the trees like a tired ghost. A cart ahead tips slightly into a ditch. The wheel sinks into the mud. Shouts erupt, men pushing and cursing. The oxen groan, their heads low. Eventually, the cart is freed, and the march stumbles forward once more. By midday, the drizzle has turned into a steady, cold rain. Your cloak sticks to your skin. The wool grows heavier, each drop adding weight to your shoulders. The iron of your chainmail feels colder, biting against your neck. Your fingers are numb. You pass through a small village. The houses are crooked, their thatched roofs sagging under the weight of the rain. A few faces peer out from behind shuttered windows. No one greets you. You don't blame them. The villagers have seen enough armies pass through to know what comes next. The taking of their food, the trampling of their fields, the empty promises of noble men who speak of God, but carry empty coin purses. A woman stands near a well, watching your ragged column shuffle past. She holds a child tightly against her hip,
her face unreadable. The child hides its face in her shoulder, small fingers gripping her cloak. You look at her eyes for a brief moment. There is no anger there, no pity, only tired understanding. You look away. The rain doesn't stop. By late afternoon, your feet are soaked through. The thin leather of your worn shoes has given up entirely. You feel every stone, every root, every cold trickle of water running through the mud. Gerald slips in front of you, landing hard on his back.
The morning fog is thick. It wraps around you like wet wool, muting the world into a pale gray nothing. The fire has long gone out, leaving only a pile of damp, blackened wood. You wonder if it ever truly burned, or if you only imagined its warmth. Your blanket, still damp from last night, clings to you stubbornly. You peel it off slowly, your fingers stiff and clumsy from cold. Every joint aches as you stand, each movement a small rebellion against your own body. The camp wakes like a graveyard shifting in its sleep, slow, quiet, resigned. Men shuffle, cough, murmur prayers under their breath. Some stare into the fog as if hoping it might swallow them whole and carry them back home. Your boots, if they can still be called that, squish softly as you slide them on. The leather is so thin now you feel the cold mud squeeze between your toes. Your feet have become strangers to you, numb, swollen, raw. The blisters have burst and reformed so often they no longer even sting. They simply exist. Gerald appears from behind a nearby cart, chewing on something. He offers you a chunk. You hesitate. "What is it?" you ask. He shrugs. "Bread, I think. Or part of it." You take a bite. It tastes like dirt and salt. You chew slowly. It fights back, but eventually surrenders. The horn sounds again. It always does. Not eager, not angry, just tired, like everything else here. The signal that it's time to move again. The line forms as it always does, ragged, uneven, men falling into place like broken teeth. The knights are already mounted, their horses stamping in the mud, steam rising from their flanks. The nobles sit tall, their fine cloaks already damp but still proudly colored. They speak softly to one another, glancing only occasionally at the sea of footmen gathering behind them. You step forward. Your legs feel like they belong to someone else. Each movement is stiff, as if your joints are full of cold mud instead of blood. The chainmail pulls on your shoulders again, a familiar, quiet torture. The helmet presses down like a silent hand, heavy and indifferent. The march resumes. Today the road narrows further, cutting into a steep hillside. Mud slides underfoot with every step. Men ahead stumble, grabbing at branches and each other to stay upright. The carts creak and groan as oxen struggle to keep them from tipping into the ditch. Your breath clouds the air before you, each exhale proof that your body is still trying, even if your mind has stopped caring. An argument breaks out ahead. Two men, shouting about space, about whose cart is blocking whose. Voices rise, hands wave, but no one throws a punch. Fighting wastes energy, and energy is precious here. The rain returns by midday, thicker now. It beats against your helmet with a dull, rhythmic patter. The water creeps down your back, soaking into every layer. You feel it pool in your boots. Every step is a wet slap of cold leather against raw skin. The priest passes by, mumbling his prayers louder now as if volume might drive away the growing sense of doom that hangs over the column like the heavy clouds above. He waves his cross in broad circles, his eyes darting nervously. "God watches over us," he says loudly, to no one in particular. You wonder if God can even see through this fog. By late afternoon, the first man collapses. He simply folds forward, crumpling into the mud without a sound. The men around him pause, unsure. A knight trots past without glancing down. Two soldiers lift the man under his arms and drag him to the side of the road. They don't check if he's dead. It doesn't matter. There's no spare food, no spare space, no spare hope. The march continues. Your mind drifts as you walk,
half asleep on your feet. You imagine your home, the fields you left behind, the simple meals, the dry bed, the silence of familiar nights. You imagine what might have happened if you had simply stayed, if you had not listened to the sermon, if you had not raised your hand. What if you had just said no? But that's not your path. Your path is mud, hunger, cold, and miles yet to come. Night falls like a curtain, heavy and absolute. The camp is quieter tonight. Men are too tired to speak. A few fires flicker weakly, their smoke barely rising in the damp air. You sit again by Gerald, the two of you sharing a scrap of dried meat. It's chewy, salty, and vaguely tastes of something that once lived. You don't ask what. The stars are hidden tonight. The clouds have stolen even those small lights. Tomorrow you will march again. The road will narrow. The men will thin. The hunger will deepen. But tonight, you sit.
The rain finally stops, but the silence it leaves behind is heavier than the storm. The mud remains, of course. It always does. It clings to your boots, your cloak, your skin. The wet earth seems to have grown fond of you, or perhaps it's simply too stubborn to let go. You wake slowly. Your joints ache before you even move. The cold has crept into your bones during the night, and now your body protests every breath, every blink, every tiny movement. Gerald snores beside you, his mouth hanging open, one foot sticking out from beneath his cloak. His rake lies next to him, still somehow absurd after all these days. You sit up, rubbing your eyes. The fog is thinner this morning, but the sky remains the same dull gray, like old linen stretched tight over a sickly sun. The air smells of wet wool, smoke, and something faintly sweet, the faint rot of food gone too long in someone's pack. A few fires sputter weakly, trying to reclaim some pride after the night's rain. The men around you stir with soft grunts and quiet curses. No one says good morning anymore. Mornings here are never good. They are simply not dead. The horn sounds. It always sounds. You wonder if it ever grows tired of itself. You gather your things, the same ritual as every morning. Chain mail over your head, the weight pressing against your shoulders like an impatient mule. The helmet, still dented, still cold, still the wrong shape for any human skull. The dull sword strapped awkwardly at your side, the wooden shield, its paint now more memory than color. The march resumes. Today, the road winds through a shallow valley, narrow and slick. The trees stand closer here, their bare branches brushing against your cloak as you pass. The world feels smaller somehow, as if the forest itself is slowly closing its hands around you. The mud squelches beneath each step, soft and unforgiving. Your legs have grown so tired they move without thought now, a rhythm of pain that hums beneath your skin like a forgotten song. The man in front of you stumbles, catching himself against a tree. You don't speak. No one does. The stumbles are frequent now, the slips, the falls, each one met with quiet, resigned indifference. Somewhere behind you, a man begins coughing, deep, wet, and ragged. The kind of cough that stays, that grows. You hear it often now, a soft chorus of sickness following the column like a shadow. Gerald walks beside you, his head down, eyes half closed. Even his ridiculous optimism seems thinner today. After several hours, the road becomes steeper. The carts groan under the strain. Oxen bellow as their hooves slide, struggling to pull their loads up the narrow path. The men assigned to push strain with gritted teeth, mud streaked across their faces like war paint. Your feet scream with every uphill step. The blisters have merged into one continuous ache, a dull fire wrapped in soaked leather. The noblemen ahead have dismounted. Even their horses struggle here. They walk now, their fine boots sinking into the same mud as yours, though their servants rush to keep their cloaks dry. By midday, the wind shifts, colder, sharper. It bites at your cheeks, slipping down your collar, finding the places where your skin is already raw. The valley narrows further, pressing the column into a thin, stumbling line. The trees grow taller, darker. And then you see it. The first corpse, half hidden beneath a tangle of roots, barely more than a shape. The remains of someone who likely walked this same path not long ago. The flesh is already thin, stretched tight over the bones. The empty sockets stare upward as if still watching the clouds. No one speaks.
No one stops. You simply keep walking. By evening, you reach a clearing large enough for camp. The fires are smaller tonight, the wood too wet to burn properly. Smoke clings low to the ground, curling around ankles and faces like curious fingers. Your dinner is 2 small onions and a piece of bread so dry it cracks as you bite into it. You chew slowly, your jaw sore for the effort. Gerald sits beside you, staring into the weak fire. "Do you think it gets better once we reach the Holy Land?" he asks softly. You don't answer. The question doesn't deserve one. The stars remain hidden. The moon, pale and thin, barely breaks through the clouds. Tomorrow you will march again. The trail will grow thinner. The bodies will grow more familiar. The silence will deepen. But tonight, you sit, you breathe, you endure. But that is a story for tomorrow night.
The frost comes quietly in the night. When you wake, the ground is stiff beneath you. The thin layer of frozen mud crunches softly as you shift your weight, like brittle paper cracking under your touch. Your breath curls in front of your face, white and thin, disappearing into the still morning air. The cold has crawled into your bones during the night, and now every joint feels like it's been packed in ice. You move slowly, carefully, as if afraid you might shatter. Around you, others rise in the same way, stiff, silent, eyes hollowed by too many nights of thin sleep and thinner meals. Their faces, pale beneath patchy beards and layers of dirt, seem carved from wax. Gerald stands, hugging his arms around his chest. His breath rattles, but he manages a weak grin. Well, at least the mud's frozen now. You don't laugh, but you do nod, because he's not wrong. The horn sounds, a long, dull moan that seems reluctant to begin the day. You pull your chainmail over your head, the cold iron biting your skin as it settles onto your shoulders. The metal feels heavier now, though you know it's the same weight it was yesterday, but your body has grown thinner, weaker. The chainmail sinks into your collarbones like a familiar enemy. Your boots barely hold together. The leather, stiff from the cold, cracks as you slide your feet into them. Every step today will feel like walking on frozen knives. The column moves forward again. The valley narrows further, the path now little more than a winding trail, hemmed in by rising hills and dense forest. The trees loom taller, branches scraping together in the wind, whispering secrets in a language you don't care to understand. The pace is slower today, not by choice. The carts struggle. The oxen slip on the frozen ground, hooves scraping uselessly. One cart tips sideways into a ditch, its wheels splinters like dry bone, spilling sacks of grain into the frost. Men argue, voices rise, but there's little strength left for anger. The grain is scooped back into the sacks, dirt, stones, and all. No one mentions it. No one cares. The coughing grows worse. Not just one man now, dozens, hacking, wet, deep coughs that tear through the column like wolves circling tired prey. You try not to breathe too deeply, but it's impossible. The air is sharp and dry, burning your lungs with every inhale. By midday, the sun breaks briefly through the clouds, pale, thin, and distant. It offers no warmth, but men turn their faces upward anyway, as if desperate for any kindness, even if it's only pretend. A man ahead collapses. His legs simply give up. Two others try to pull him up, but his eyes roll back, his lips cracked and blue. A priest hurries over, muttering quick prayers. The commander doesn't even glance back. The march continues. The body is left behind, like many before, like more to come. Gerald falls in step beside you again. His breathing is heavier now. His face flushed, sweat beads on his brow despite the cold. He wipes it away with a shaky hand. Just tired is all. You don't answer, because you've begun to hear it too. The quiet counting, not aloud, but inside your mind, counting how many have fallen, how many might still fall, how many days remain. The sun fades quickly. The sky grows dark long before you stop. Tonight the fires are fewer, the wood harder to find. Men sit closer together now, shoulders touching beneath thin blankets, trying to borrow warmth from each other's breath. Your dinner is half an onion and a crust of bread so thin it bends in your hand. Gerald sits quietly, staring at nothing. His rake lies beside him, forgotten. You chew slowly, feeling each dry bite scrape down your throat. You sip from your water skin. The water inside tastes faintly of iron, like drinking old coins. The moon hides behind a heavy curtain of clouds. No stars tonight, just the sound of coughing, whispering, and the distant groan of oxen settling into the cold. Tomorrow, you will march again. The wind will bite harder.
The column will grow thinner. The sickness will creep closer. But tonight, you sit. You breathe. You endure. But that is a story for tomorrow night.
The first sound you hear in the morning is not the horn. It's the coughing. Louder now. Deeper. The kind that rattles from the stomach up, thick and wet, like something alive trying to escape from deep inside a man's chest. You open your eyes slowly. The frost is thicker today. It crusts the edges of your blanket, sparkles on the grass like a cruel joke pretending to be beautiful. Your breath swirls in thin white ribbons, vanishing into the frozen air. Gerald hasn't moved yet. He lies still beneath his cloak. For a moment, you worry. Then he stirs, his breath rising in quick bursts. His face is pale, his lips cracked. He tries to sit up, but coughs sharply, doubling forward. "Fine," he rasps. "Just the cold." You don't answer. Neither of you believes it anymore. The horn finally sounds. Slow. Reluctant. Even it seems tired. You pull your chainmail over your shoulders, the metal biting against skin that has long since given up trying to stay dry or warm. The chainmail's weight feels heavier, as though each passing day adds another stone to your back. Your legs are slow to obey this morning. The muscles tight, the joints stiff. Each movement feels borrowed, rented from a body that no longer wants to carry you. The march resumes. The path is narrowing into nothing now, a thin track that twists along a ridge, flanked by steep drops on either side. The forest below looks like a sea of dead fingers stretching towards you. The wind howls between the trees, sharp and hollow. The pace slows, not by order, by exhaustion. The carts struggle. One slips. The oxen bellow in panic as the heavy wooden frame tips toward the edge. Men shout, ropes are pulled, feet slide across frozen mud. The cart teeters dangerously, then with one final groan, slips fully into the ravine. It vanishes into the gray mist below. No one speaks. No one watches for long. The loss is accepted like the cold, something you simply carry. The men ahead keep moving, one foot after another, heads down, eyes unfocused. You follow, your own thoughts as numb as your fingers. Gerald stumbles beside you. You reach out instinctively, grabbing his arm. He steadies, but says nothing. His breathing is ragged. The coughing returns every few minutes, each one leaving him weaker. By midday, the wind grows sharper. It cuts through your thin cloak as if you wore nothing at all. Your skin stings beneath the constant bite of cold air. You pass another body. This one is fresher. Maybe a young man. His face is still pink, lips frozen in a soft, open shape, as if surprised that death came so soon. His hands are folded across his chest, though whether someone placed them that way or if he fell that way, you'll never know. The priest mutters a prayer as he passes. The commander doesn't slow. The march continues. By late afternoon, you see smoke ahead. Not from your campfires, but from something larger. A village. Small. Crooked wooden homes huddled together in the narrow valley, smoke curling from a few rough chimneys. The villagers watch as your column limps into sight. They stand at a distance, silent, tense. Their faces are drawn, thin from their own hunger. They know what this arrival means. They've seen Crusaders before. Your commander rides ahead. Words are exchanged. You can't hear them, but you know how it ends. It always ends the same. The village offers what little food they have. Under the weight of swords and oaths, generosity and fear blur together. Tonight, you're allowed shelter, a rare mercy. You find yourself inside a narrow barn. The straw is dry, mostly.
The walls keep out the worst of the wind. Gerald lies beside you, shivering under his blanket. They say Jerusalem is beautiful, golden, warm. You stare at the ceiling, watching the wooden beams tremble in the wind. You do not speak, because you know the truth. You may never see it. The road is long. The hunger is deep. The sickness is spreading. Tomorrow you will march again. The valley will narrow. The dead will multiply. The silence will grow heavier.
You wake to the sound of a goat chewing. Its breath puffs softly in the cold barn air, each exhale a little cloud that rises, curls, and vanishes near the rafters. Its jaw moves in slow, deliberate circles, pulling coarse hay through cracked yellow teeth. The barn is still dark. The thin light of morning hasn't fully arrived. Outside, you hear faint voices, hushed, careful, tired. Gerald hasn't moved. He lies beside you, wrapped tightly in his cloak, face pale. His breathing rattles faintly in his chest. You place a hand on his shoulder. He stirs weakly. His eyes open, briefly. "Still here," he whispers. His voice is thin, barely audible beneath the rasping in his lungs. "For now." You sit up slowly. The ache in your back feels deeper this morning, like your spine has grown tired of holding you upright. The chainmail waits beside you like an old debt. You lift it once again, settling the cold iron over your shoulders, feeling its familiar weight pull you down. The horn sounds outside. Even here, in this momentary shelter, the march cannot be delayed. You step into the morning. The village looks even smaller by daylight, a cluster of crooked roofs leaning into one another like tired old men.
The villagers watch you all with guarded eyes. Their children hide behind their mothers' skirts. Thin faces peek out, curious but afraid. They know you. You are not saviors. You are not heroes. You are mouths. Hungry, desperate mouths. A goat bleats as someone leads it away. Payment, perhaps, or ransom. The villagers have little left to give, but they will give it anyway, because steel and hunger speak louder than mercy. The march resumes. The path winds sharply uphill now, cutting across rough hillsides. The ground is frozen, but the sun is out today, pale, weak, but visible. It reflects off patches of frost like scattered shards of glass. You trudge forward, your breath heavy, boots cracking the brittle earth beneath you. Each step stings. The blisters have hardened into cracked leather skin. You don't even feel them fully anymore, just a steady, dull throb that hums through your feet like background noise. The coughing spreads, not isolated anymore. Nearly every man around you hacks and wheezes. Some try to muffle it behind sleeves, others don't bother. The sickness is part of the march now, like hunger, like mud, like cold. A man 2 rows ahead stumbles. His face flushes bright red as he clutches his chest, coughing so hard his knees buckle. No one moves to help, not out of cruelty, but out of knowing. You cannot lift them all. He falls into the ditch beside the path. His body shudders once, twice, then stops. The priest walks past, whispering a hurried prayer. The commander glances back, but says nothing. The line keeps moving. By midday, the hills open briefly into a wide, barren plain. The wind rushes across it without mercy, cutting into your face, slipping down your collar. You pull your cloak tighter, though it offers little protection. In the distance, vultures circle. You do not want to know what they've found. The column thins further. A few carts are missing now, left behind after wheels splintered or oxen collapsed. Supplies grow lighter, but not because the burden is easier, because there's less left to carry. Food is measured in handfuls. Your dinner that night is a boiled root, half burnt and bitter. Gerald cannot finish his. He sits, hunched over, the coughing coming more often now, his breath shallow. Soon. We'll reach it soon, right? The holy city? You don't answer. The camp is almost silent tonight. The fires are small. The men sit closer, not speaking, not praying, just waiting, as if listening for something they don't want to hear. The sky is clear, stars scattered like old coins thrown across black velvet, cold, distant, silent witnesses. Tomorrow you will march again. The plain will stretch longer. The wind will grow sharper. The weak will fall quietly.
You wake before the horn today. It is not light that pulls you from sleep. The sky remains heavy, the clouds pressing low, as if trying to smother the day before it can begin. Nor is it the cold, though the air still stings your face, slipping under your blanket like the thin fingers of winter itself. No. What wakes you is silence. The barn is empty. The others have risen already. Only Gerald remains beside you, still wrapped in his cloak. His breathing is faint now, rattling softly in the quiet air like loose parchment. You set up slowly, every joint stiff and complaining. The straw beneath you has grown thin. You feel the hard wooden slats pressing into your spine. The door creaks as you push it open. Outside, the column gathers in the gray dawn, faces downcast, shoulders hunched. Men shuffle about like ghosts, their eyes hollow, their hands cracked from the cold. The wind drags weak curls of smoke from last night's fading fires, lifting them toward a sky that offers nothing. The villagers stand apart again, watching, their faces unreadable. There is nothing left for them to give. You've taken what little they could spare. And still, the hunger gnaws inside you. You help Gerald to his feet. His legs tremble under him like thin branches in a winter wind. But he stands. Somehow. The horn sounds. The march begins again. The road today cuts through a long valley, narrow and twisting. The hills press in on either side, their flanks littered with rocks and patches of brittle grass. The wind howls down the valley like a bitter animal. It snaps at your cloak, stings your cheeks, works its way into your ears with the steady, high-pitched whine that never leaves. Your chainmail feels heavier with every step. The cold metal sticks to your skin in places where sweat never fully dries. The strap of your pack digs into your shoulder, rubbing raw a spot that has already bled twice before. Your thoughts drift now, as they often do. Not to glory, not to God, but to simple things. Warm soup, a dry bed, the way your mother used to hum while stirring the pot. You hold these fragments in your mind like small fires. Without them, you know you'd crumble like so many already have. The coughing is worse today. All around you, men stumble as the hacking overtakes them. Some lean on their neighbors. Others simply fall to their knees, spitting into the frozen earth, their bodies shaking. One young man a few rows ahead vomits into the ditch, too weak to even wipe his mouth after. His friend places a hand on his back, but neither speaks. There are no more words for this. Only quiet. By midday, the valley narrows to little more than a thin pass between steep cliffs. The trees are gone now, replaced by jagged rocks that loom like ancient broken teeth. A wagon ahead tips on a sharp turn. Its wheel snaps cleanly, the wood dry and brittle as old bone. The oxen collapse moments later, legs folding under them. They don't rise again. The supplies are stripped quickly. A few sacks of grain, a coil of rope, some dried meat. The rest is left behind. Always left behind. As the sun begins to sink, the path levels briefly onto a plateau. The wind dies here, but the silence feels thicker without it, like a blanket that's grown too heavy to breathe beneath. The camp is smaller tonight.
Another handful of men have fallen behind, unable to continue. Some were allowed to rest, others weren't given a choice. You sit near a small flickering fire, your knees pulled to your chest beneath the thin wool of your cloak. Gerald sits beside you, head bowed, coughing quietly into his sleeve. "We're getting closer," he whispers again, his voice thin. You don't answer. You haven't answered for days now. The lie has grown too heavy to repeat. Your dinner is half a turnip and a strip of meat so dry it cracks as you bite into it. You chew slowly, counting each bite, forcing your stomach to believe it's enough. Above you, the stars are faint behind thin clouds. They blink like distant candles, flickering as if uncertain whether to remain or vanish altogether. You close your eyes and let the stillness wrap around you. Tomorrow you will march again. The ground will harden. The dead will rise only in memory. And the hunger will sit quietly inside you, waiting. But tonight, you sit, you breathe, you endure. You wake this morning before even the silence. There is no horn, no voices, no shuffling of boots across frozen mud, only stillness, cold, heavy, and thick. Your breath hangs in front of you, curling into the gray air like a thread unspooling into nothing. Gerald's coughing was quieter through the night, too quiet. You turn toward him slowly. His eyes are closed. His face is pale, almost gray beneath the thin light leaking into the barn through the cracks in the wood. His chest rises, but shallowly, like a thin reed bending in wind you can't feel. You lay a hand on his shoulder, not to wake him, just to be sure. His skin is cold, but not yet empty. For now, he still breathes. You sit there for a long while, waiting for the others to move, listening to nothing. Then, slowly, the camp stirs. Boots crunch, men whisper, the quiet shuffle of bodies preparing to continue. There are fewer today. You can feel it. The air seems wider, emptier. Even the priest speaks more softly now, as though the weight of so many prayers has begun to tire him. You lift your chainmail again, the iron biting your raw fingers as you pull it over your head. The bruises on your shoulders have darkened into deep purple patches beneath the cold steel. Your skin breaks slightly as the edge scrapes across your neck. You feel the warmth of your own blood for a moment before it quickly turns cold again. Gerald leans against you as you help him up. His legs are thin sticks under him,
His breathing wheezes like dry leaves rattling in the wind, but he smiles faintly. He always smiles. The horn finally sounds, not with strength, more like a groan, tired, cracked, resigned. The march continues. The land changes again. The hills flatten into wide open fields, covered in low dead grass that crunches beneath your feet like thin shells. The wind has returned, stronger now. It pushes against your face, cutting through the seams of your cloak and slipping down your collar like cold fingers searching for warmth to steal. The horizon stretches endlessly ahead. There is no end in sight, no walls, no city, no holy place rising against the skyline. Just more earth. The road has become a trail. The trail has become little more than a suggestion. A man behind you stumbles. His leg gives out beneath him, and he collapses into the brittle grass. He does not rise. He does not call for help. The column moves around him as if he were a fallen tree in the road. You march. You march because stopping is more frightening than walking. You march because there is nothing else left to do. Your mind drifts. Images float up like bubbles from some deep place. Your mother's kitchen. Your father's tired hands stacking winter wood. A village far behind you, where the days smelled of stew and wet earth instead of blood and iron. You hold on to these scraps. You have nothing else to hold. By late afternoon, the sky darkens again. Thick clouds roll low, heavy with unfallen snow. The first flakes come like tiny spies, quiet, soft, almost gentle. They drift down and settle on your cloak, clinging for a moment before melting into the damp cloth. The snow will come heavier soon. You know this. Everyone does. That night, the fires struggle against the creeping cold. You sit beside Gerald again. His breathing rattles worse now. The coughing comes in fits that shake his entire frame. His lips are dry, his eyes glazed. "You think," he whispers, barely audible, "you think they will remember us? Any of this?" You stare at the fire, watching the tiny flames lick upward against the wind. "No," you whisper back. And you are both quiet after that. The sky is silent, black, empty. Even the stars seem afraid to look down. Tomorrow you will march again. The snow will fall heavier. The march will grow slower. The dying will grow quieter. But tonight, you sit. You breathe. You endure. But that is a story for tomorrow night.
You don't remember falling asleep. At some point in the night, the line between exhaustion and dreams simply vanished, like everything else beneath the snow. You wake to pale gray light. The sky presses low above you, and the air feels heavier. Each breath draws in cold that bites at your throat, but at least it's air. You've learned to be grateful for small things. Beside you, Gerald sleeps, or perhaps drifts somewhere between sleep and silence. His face is pale beneath the thin wool of his hood, and his chest rises only slightly beneath the weight of his cloak. The camp around you is nearly buried. Soft hills of snow rise around the scattered figures. Men shuffle slowly from beneath the drifts like tired ghosts climbing from forgotten graves. The horn doesn't sound today. There's no one left to blow it. The commander's voice carries instead, low, hoarse. Move. And so you move. Your feet crack through the thin crust of ice that formed overnight. The snow is up to your knees now, each step pulling against you like wet sand, as if the earth itself has grown tired of your footsteps. The column moves like a slow wound across the white field. You no longer look around. There's nothing to see. Only snow, only shapes. Men bent forward beneath invisible burdens, cloaks stiff with frozen sweat, faces pale and chapped. The wind shifts again, sharp and slicing through your layers. You draw your cloak tighter, but it's soaked and stiff, offering little more than a thin barrier between you and the wind's fingers. Gerald leans heavily into you as you walk. His steps drag, his breath whistles faintly. The coughing has slowed, not from recovery. You know what comes next. By midday, one of the oxen collapses into the snow. It does not move again. The men surrounding the cart stop briefly, looking down at the animal. No one speaks. The priest bows his head, his frozen breath forming small clouds as he mumbles another quiet prayer. The cart is abandoned. The supplies it carried are divided quickly, what little is left. A sack of spoiled grain, some strips of salted hide, a cracked pot. The road behind you has vanished. The snow fills every footprint, every broken wagon track, as if erasing the proof that anyone ever passed through here. You march through emptiness now. The priest limps past you, his voice soft but steady as he mumbles verses into the frozen air. He clutches his rosary tightly, the beads clicking faintly beneath his gloves. His lips are cracked, his eyes distant. You glance toward Gerald again. His face slackens, his head droops forward as he walks. You tighten your grip around his arm, holding him upright, feeling the thin bones beneath your gloved fingers. "You're doing fine," you whisper softly, though you know it's not true. He offers a faint smile. His lips barely move. "I always hated winter." You want to laugh, but you're too tired. By late afternoon, the wind grows fiercer. It howls across the open plain, dragging stinging waves of snow sideways. You can't see more than a few steps ahead. The men around you stumble forward, their outlines blurred like shadows swimming through a white sea. More will fall today. You don't need to look to know it. You've learned to recognize the silence when one drops, the way no one stops walking, the way the march simply folds around the fallen. When camp is called that evening, only a few fires burn, thin flames snapping helplessly in the wind. The snow falls heavier now, a steady curtain that hides everything beyond arm's reach. You and Gerald sit beneath a crude shelter made from bent branches and scraps of cloth. His breathing is faint. His hands tremble as he clutches the last piece of hard bread. He doesn't eat it, just holds it. For a long while, neither of you speak. Finally, he whispers, "We're close now. We must be close." You don't answer, because you know what comes next. Tomorrow you will march again. The cold will cut deeper. The snow will climb higher. The line will grow thinner. But tonight you sit, you breathe, you endure. But that is a story for tomorrow night.
You no longer wake. You simply open your eyes. Sleep has become something thinner than it used to be. Not rest, not escape. Just small patches of darkness between hours of cold. The kind of sleep where you hear yourself breathing the entire time. The snow falls even now. You watch it drift downward in slow spirals, settling on your boots, your sleeves, your face. You don't bother brushing it away anymore. Gerald stirs beside you, but barely. His body curls tighter against the cold. His lips are dry, cracked white, his eyes half-lidded as if they no longer care to fully open. The march continues. No one gives orders anymore. There is no horn, no shouted commands. The column simply rises, by instinct now. A quiet, broken habit, like animals in winter that move because stopping means freezing where they stand. You take Gerald's arm again and rise together. The snow reaches your thighs now. Each step feels like pulling yourself from a frozen grave. Your knees ache. The sores on your feet pulse with every dragging motion. The men ahead of you march in silence, their heads bowed, their shoulders hunched beneath stiff cloaks. Some have wrapped strips of cloth around their faces, but the wind sneaks through every gap. It freezes the sweat on your skin into thin crisples that sting your cheeks with every blast. The world has narrowed into white silence. You no longer know where you are. You no longer care. A man ahead stumbles. His legs buckle. He drops slowly, like a sack of grain tipping from a wagon. No cry, no struggle. He simply disappears into the snow. The column moves around him. Another mile. Another silent fall. The dead no longer seem tragic, only expected. Your mind drifts again, not back to home this time, but to strange details. The way soup once smelled in the village, the warmth of wet wool drying near a fire, the soft scratch of a chicken's feet on the dirt floor, the way your father used to whistle tunelessly while chopping wood. You hold these little ghosts like thin coins in your pocket. They don't feed you, but they keep your chest from collapsing. The sun presses weakly behind a pale sky, offering no heat, barely any light. The days blur into gray sameness. By afternoon, Gerald's steps falter again. His legs no longer lift, they drag. His breath comes in faint gasps that barely fog the air now. You tighten your grip, pulling him upright, but you feel how little is left of him. He whispers something, but it's too soft. You lean closer. Sorry, he breathes. I thought I was stronger. You don't speak. There's nothing to say. No comfort left to offer. The snow deepens. The wind grows sharper. The column has thinned into scattered clusters now. Once a proud march of hundreds, now a slow string of hollowed shapes, barely more than shadows swaying against the white. By nightfall, you collapse together beneath a leaning tree, its trunk bent as if bowing beneath the sky's heavy silence. Your shelter is nothing more than thin branches propped around you. The cold sinks into your bones like slow water filling an old broken well. Gerald shivers against you. His fingers barely twitch. His eyes no longer open. His breathing comes shallow and slow, like the flicker of a dying candle. You sit there in the falling snow, listening to that thin breath. Tomorrow, you will march again. The snow will deepen. The column will thin. The wind will not stop. But tonight, you sit. You breathe. You endure.
You are no longer sure if this is morning. The sky is a pale blur, as if light itself has forgotten how to arrive. The snow continues to fall, soft and steady, erasing even yesterday's footprints. You shift beneath your frozen cloak. The fabric cracks slightly, stiff from the ice, lacing through it like veins. You feel your joints complain as you move, but you've grown used to that language. Beside you, Gerald no longer stirs. His face is pale, drained. His breath, so faint now, barely lifts the thin frost collecting on his lips. His eyelids remain closed, as though he's listening to something distant, something only he can hear. You lean closer. His chest rises once more, then falls. Then nothing. You remain still for a long time, listening, waiting, hoping perhaps for one more breath, even though you know better. There is no struggle, no final gasp, just quiet, as though the cold itself simply took him gently, like snow covering a sleeping field. You rest your hand on his shoulder. It is already cold. And then the march begins again. The remaining men rise slowly, like withered stalks in a winter field. No voices call out orders, no horn sounds. The march no longer needs instructions. It moves now by habit, by instinct. You leave Gerald beneath the tree. There is no time for graves. The snow will cover him soon enough. The line shuffles forward, sparse, thin, ghostly. The snow now reaches your waist in places. The wind cuts like glass. Your legs burn with each step, your knees screaming with the weight of lifting against the deepening drifts. But you walk. Not out of strength, that left long ago. You walk because stopping feels heavier than moving. The column has splintered into smaller groups, pairs, solitary figures. You glance ahead, shapes swaying like tired ships in a frozen sea. One collapses ahead of you, another behind. You hear no cries, no calls, only the wind, singing softly around you. The sun tries to press through the heavy sky, a weak, pale disk, unable to warm anything below. Your mind drifts again, this time not to home, but to the faces already gone. The boy with the patched cloak who traded you a turnip. The old man who mumbled prayers through cracked lips. The mother who lost her son near the river crossing weeks ago. Gerald. Their voices swirl like thin smoke in your thoughts. Not loud, not painful, just present. By late afternoon, the wind grows stronger still, pushing sideways across your body, forcing your steps into strange angles. The snow blows in tight, swirling columns, small white storms that dance briefly before vanishing again. The priest walks alone now, his head bowed, his rosary swinging from his stiff fingers. His voice is hoarse but steady, whispering prayers into the wind that carries them away before they even reach his own ears. The camp that night is smaller than ever. Only a handful of flickering fires struggle against the wind.
The shelters are nothing more than hollow dips in the snow. You sit alone now. No one leans against you. No one shares the thin warmth of a blanket. The silence is heavier than the cold. Above you, the sky remains empty. The stars refuse to return. Even they seem to have grown tired of watching. Tomorrow, you will march again. The line will thin to its final threads. The snow will cover what's left behind. The world will continue not to notice. But tonight, you sit. You breathe. You endure. But that is a story for tomorrow night.
You don't feel your toes anymore. Not from pain. That left hours ago. What remains is a strange numbness, like walking on wooden stumps wrapped in thin cloth. Each step sinks you deeper into the snow. The drifts have swallowed the world almost completely now. The wind whistles through the narrow remains of your column, if it can still be called that. You glance ahead. Fewer than a dozen figures remain within sight, their shapes thin and crooked beneath stiff cloaks. Their heads bow lower with every step. The snow pulls at them like white hands, as though the land itself is trying to gently lay them down. You walk alone now. There are no voices. The priest is gone. His rosary lies half buried in the snow, its beads frozen together like tiny bones. You found it earlier, resting beside the trail, and you left it there. Even prayers seem unnecessary now. You feel the emptiness inside you, but not hunger anymore. The stomach stops its complaints when it gives up hope of being heard. You exist as little more than a breathing shape wrapped in frozen cloth, moving forward because your legs still understand how to walk. A bird cries above, one sharp, high note, the only sound beyond the wind. You look up and see nothing but gray sky. Perhaps you imagined it. Ahead, one figure falls to their knees. Slowly, gently, they tip sideways into the snow without a sound. No one moves to help. No one even pauses. The snow covers all equally. The path rises slightly now, a small hill barely visible beneath the deep white. You lean forward, pressing your weight into each dragging step, feeling the strain in your hips, in your spine. The world narrows. The wind grows louder. The snow blinds. You no longer see faces, only shadows swaying forward, thin and hollow. By afternoon, the hill flattens. You pause briefly, your chest heaving as you scan the white expanse ahead. For a moment, it feels as if the world simply ends here. No more land, no more sky, just a wide, silent nothing. And then, barely visible through the snow, a faint outline. Walls, far away, low, crumbling. A city? The faintest shape of what might have once been stone towers, now broken, sagging beneath the weight of years. You squint, unsure if your eyes still tell the truth, but something stands ahead. The wind shifts again, tugging at your cloak like cold fingers urging you forward. The last shapes around you drift toward it, or perhaps they too are imagining it, a final dream before sleep. You move forward, your legs stiff, your breath sharp and thin. The snow deepens around your knees, but you push through. The distant walls seem closer now, not welcoming, not grand, just there, existing. By nightfall, you reach the base of the crumbling ruins.
The stones are old, broken, blackened in places by fire long cooled. Empty arches gape like missing teeth. No lights burn, no voices greet you. Only the wind moves through the hollow halls, singing its endless, quiet song. You press your back against a fallen column, lowering yourself slowly to sit. Your body trembles, not from cold, but from emptiness, from the quiet relief of stopping. You look up at the ruined towers, their jagged edges cutting into the gray sky. This is what you marched for. Not gold, not glory, not salvation. Only this, a broken place, forgotten. You close your eyes. Tomorrow you will decide whether to go inside or whether there is even a reason to. But tonight you sit, you breathe, you...
The wind has stilled, not because it has grown kind, but because even the wind seems tired now, as if it too has marched this long road beside you. You sit for a long time beneath the broken column, staring at the jagged ruins ahead. The snow falls softly, covering the stones like old regrets being slowly erased. When you finally rise, your joints creak like stiff wood. Your legs argue, but not loudly. The arguments of the body have grown faint now, soft complaints that you barely hear anymore. You step forward. The ruined gate arches before you, once wide and proud, now slumped and cracked, its stones leaning against one another for balance. Half the gate has crumbled into the snow, leaving a crooked opening just wide enough for a man to pass through. You do not know if any others have entered ahead of you. You no longer see them. You no longer expect to. The silence inside the walls feels different, not softer, heavier. The snow still falls, but less reaches you now. The wind's breath dies beneath the high broken towers. The air feels colder somehow inside these empty bones of stone. You walk slowly, careful not to slip on the frozen rubble beneath your boots. The ground here is uneven. Patches of broken stone rise beneath thin blankets of snow. Fallen beams, blackened by old fire, lie like discarded limbs across the streets. Shattered windows stare down from hollow buildings, dark, vacant eyes that saw too much long ago. You pass what was once a marketplace, stone stalls, now collapsed, a broken fountain choked with ice. A few rusted iron hooks still hang from beams where meat once hung. The city breathes its emptiness softly into your ears. You wonder if this was once beautiful, if children once ran through these streets, if laughter ever bounced off these walls before the fires came. But history no longer remembers. A raven perches on a broken arch ahead of you, its black feathers gleaming against the white snow. It watches you quietly, as though curious why anyone would bother walking here. You keep moving. Your breath comes in slow clouds. Your legs tremble slightly now, each step landing with less certainty, but you move forward, past the broken well, past the hollow houses, into what was once the center of this forgotten place. A church stands crookedly ahead. Its tall stone face is cracked, its bell tower slumped to one side. The doors hang open, one broken from its hinge. Snow drifts inside, collecting in soft mounds across the stone floor. You step through the doorway.
The silence inside the church feels like walking into a whisper. Even the snow falling through the holes in the roof makes no sound as it lands. The altar remains, simple, bare. A crooked cross leans behind it, one arm snapped short. You lower yourself onto one of the frozen benches. The wood groans beneath your weight, but holds. You sit. You breathe. There is no fire here, no shelter, no food. Just walls, and snow, and silence. But the march has ended. Whether this was your destination, or simply where your legs finally stopped, you do not know. It no longer matters. Outside, the snow continues to fall, slowly filling the streets, slowly burying the past. Tomorrow, perhaps, you will search the other ruins, or perhaps you will simply sit here, listening to the cold. But that is a story for tomorrow night.
The morning arrives unnoticed. There is no sun, only a pale gray shift in the color of the sky. The same color the world has worn for days, maybe weeks now. You open your eyes inside the broken church. The snow has crept further overnight, rising in soft waves across the stone floor, climbing around the frozen pews like quiet fingers pulling the world back into silence. Your breath rises in small clouds. The cold no longer surprises you. It simply exists. You rise slowly, feeling the stiffness in your legs as if your bones have grown brittle, like the splintered wood around you. The streets outside remain empty. The others, those few thin shapes that walked with you yesterday, are gone. Whether they collapsed in the snow or slipped quietly into some sheltered ruin, you do not know. You suspect you are alone now, and somehow that feels soft. Not terrifying, not tragic, just soft. Like the snowfall itself. You walk again, not far, only a few slow steps through the ruined marketplace. The snow crunches faintly beneath your boots, the only sound left. The world feels distant here, as if you've stepped out of time itself. The crusade, that grand promise of glory, of salvation, feels absurd now. Its banners, its sermons, its crowded marches, all dissolved into this silent ruin. No one will sing songs of what happened here. No one will write the names. The stone walls stand, broken, but still standing. The snow drapes over them like a slow, soft burial shroud. You pass a toppled statue. The face has been worn away by years of wind and rain. Even the memory of who it once honored has vanished. A few brittle shrubs poke through the snow, their branches frozen, their leaves long gone. They look like black fingers scratching upward toward a sky that no longer looks back. You pause at what was once a well. The stones are cracked, leaning inward slightly. Snow has filled it nearly to the brim. You stare into its mouth for a long moment, seeing only white. A grave,
but without a body, or perhaps too many. The hunger has faded completely now. The body knows when to give up asking. You sit again, this time beside the well, letting your body relax into the snowbank. The cold presses through your clothes, but softly now, like an old companion. The wind returns, not sharp this time, but slow and steady, humming softly through the broken city. It sounds like breathing. You close your eyes. Tomorrow perhaps you will not rise. Perhaps the snow will cover you too, as it covers everything. And history will not remember that you ever walked here at all. But tonight, you sit, you breathe, you endure. But that is a story for tomorrow night.
The wind has stilled. Not because it has grown kind, but because even the wind seems tired now, as if it too has marched this long road beside you. You sit for a long time beneath the broken column, staring at the jagged ruins ahead. The snow falls softly, covering the stones like old regrets being slowly erased. When you finally rise, your joints creak like stiff wood. Your legs argue, but not loudly. The arguments of the body have grown faint now, soft complaints that you barely hear anymore. You step forward. The ruined gate arches before you. Once wide and proud, now slumped and cracked, its stones leaning against one another for balance. Half the gate has crumbled into the snow, leaving a crooked opening just wide enough for a man to pass through. You do not know if any others have entered ahead of you. You no longer see them. You no longer expect to. The silence inside the walls feels different. Not softer, heavier. The snow still falls, but less reaches you now. The wind's breath dies beneath the high broken towers. The air feels colder somehow inside these empty bones of stone.
You walk slowly, careful not to slip on the frozen rubble beneath your boots. The ground here is uneven. Patches of broken stone rise beneath thin blankets of snow. Fallen beams, blackened by old fire, lie like discarded limbs across the streets. Shattered windows stare down from hollow buildings, dark, vacant eyes that saw too much long ago. You pass what was once a marketplace. Stone stalls now collapsed. A broken fountain choked with ice. A few rusted iron hooks still hang from beams where meat once hung. The city breathes its emptiness softly into your ears. You wonder if this was once beautiful, if children once ran through these streets, if laughter ever bounced off these walls before the fires came. But history no longer remembers. A raven perches on a broken arch ahead of you, its black feathers gleaming against the white snow. It watches you quietly, as though curious why anyone would bother walking here. You keep moving. Your breath comes in slow clouds. Your legs tremble slightly now, each step landing with less certainty. But you move forward, past the broken well, past the hollow houses, into what was once the center of this forgotten place. A church stands crookedly ahead. Its tall stone face is cracked, its bell tower slumped to one side. The doors hang open, one broken from its hinge. Snow drifts inside, collecting in soft mounds across the stone floor. You step through the doorway. The silence inside the church feels like walking into a whisper. Even the snow falling through the holes in the roof makes no sound as it lands. The altar remains. Simple. Bare. A crooked cross leans behind it, one arm snapped short. You lower yourself onto one of the frozen benches. The wood groans beneath your weight, but holds. You sit. You breathe. There is no fire here. No shelter. No food. Just walls. And snow. And silence. But the march has ended. Whether this was your destination or simply where your legs finally stopped, you do not know. It no longer matters. Outside, the snow continues to fall, slowly filling the streets, slowly burying the past. Tomorrow, perhaps you will search the other ruins, or perhaps you will simply sit here, listening to the cold. But tonight, you sit. You breathe. You endure. But that is a story for tomorrow night.
The gray sky has thickened overnight. You awaken not because of sound or movement, but simply because your body has grown too stiff to remain still. The cold has seeped into your bones, curling around your spine, making even your breath feel brittle. Your eyes blink open, the snow continues its quiet work, layering the world inch by inch. A new mound of white has formed where your feet rested through the night. Soon, perhaps, the snow will finish its work. The ruins remain unchanged, or perhaps more broken. It's hard to tell. The stones shift softly beneath the weight, settling further into forgetfulness. Your hand rests on the rim of the old well. Frost glitters along its surface, catching the dim light like 1,000 tiny knives. You let your fingers trace the stones slowly, feeling the ridges worn smooth by hands long gone. How many lives once gathered here for water? How many voices laughed around this well? You hear none now, only your own faint breathing. You rise, slower than yesterday. The joints complain in small whispers, dull, patient reminders that even the simplest movement carries weight. The city sleeps around you. You step carefully through the snow-covered streets, pausing often, not for rest, for balance. The snow hides uneven ground beneath its soft surface, and your legs wobble like thin branches. Your breath clouds ahead of you, rising into the pale sky and disappearing like every name once spoken here. A fallen cart leans against a broken wall ahead. Its wheels are half buried, its wooden frame rotted and bent, the contents long gone, taken or lost or simply vanished. You imagine the people who once pulled it through these streets. Traders with their onions, cloth, salted fish, children reaching for treats they couldn't afford, merchants arguing over prices no one remembers. All gone. Only shadows now. Whispers beneath the snow. You turn toward a small side alley, barely visible beneath the sagging beams and drooping snow. Here the ruins are tighter, narrow passages where buildings lean against each other like drunks after a long night. You step through carefully, brushing past a heavy curtain of snow hanging from a broken roof. Inside, you find what was once a home. The hearth remains, blackened and cold, filled with snow instead of fire. The table still stands, though one leg has snapped, leaving it leaning at an awkward tilt. 2 wooden chairs sit toppled nearby, the remnants of a life. You run your gloved hand over the rough table surface. Faint carvings remain in the wood, small notches, perhaps from knives or careless elbows, or maybe from a child impatiently scratching while waiting for stew to cool. You sit, carefully. The broken chair groans beneath your weight, but holds, as if someone returned. You stare at the empty hearth. Your stomach gives a faint, dry complaint, not hunger now, just the body remembering. You close your eyes briefly and let your mind drift back. The sermons, the oaths, the march. Thousands of men, loud with hope and fear, swelling like a great river. The promises of forgiveness, the banners snapping in the wind, the priests blessing frightened hands gripping wooden crosses, the long roads stretching east, churning mud beneath countless feet. All of it leading here. To silence. To this forgotten house in a forgotten city, under a sky that watches but no longer cares. The cold presses gently against your back, reminding you that even memory grows tired. You open your eyes. A soft gust of wind shifts the snow against the broken doorway, and for a moment you almost expect someone to enter.
a merchant's wife with fresh bread, a child chasing after a stray dog, a neighbor arriving with news of market prices. But no one comes. No one has come for years or centuries. You sit in the broken house a while longer, breathing slowly. The chair creaks softly beneath you with each breath, like an old voice keeping you company. Tomorrow, perhaps, you will explore the last corner of the ruins, or perhaps you will not move again. But tonight, you sit, you breathe, you endure. But that is a story for tomorrow night.
The snow has nearly finished its work. You awaken slowly, not from sleep, but from something softer than sleep. A quiet pause where even dreams have grown tired. The broken house around you leans inward, its walls heavy with ice. The roof sags above, its beams groaning faintly under the weight of another night's snowfall. You sit for a long while, watching your breath rise like slow smoke into the cold air. The world outside has become pure white. The ruins are barely visible now, just vague shapes, smooth mounds where sharp stones once stood. The wind has grown kind, not absent, simply tired, like you. It drifts in soft circles through the broken streets, humming gently as it moves. You stand, slowly, carefully. Your legs hesitate, but they remember. Your body has grown impossibly light, not from strength, but from surrender. You walk once more through the ruined streets. No purpose? No goal, only movement. The city barely exists now, only soft curves of snow where once there were walls. The broken towers have disappeared beneath thick drifts, leaving behind smooth white hills. Here and there, blackened timbers still reach upward like fingers, reminders of old fires, old fears, but even they sag beneath the weight of forgetting. You pause before the old church one last time. Its roof has fully collapsed now. Snow pours inside freely, filling the hollow space where prayers once echoed. The broken cross behind the altar still leans, one arm snapped short. Even symbols grow tired. You step inside. The snow welcomes you gently. Soft waves of white rise around your ankles. You sit where the pew once stood, though the bench itself has vanished beneath the drifts. You simply sit in the snow now, your back resting against nothing. The silence is total. Not lonely, not frightening, simply full. The world has erased itself around you, and you too feel lighter, as if you are becoming part of it, as if you were always meant to. The promises of the crusade, of gold, of glory, of salvation feel absurd now, like distant stories whispered by children who never lived this march. In the end, there was no reward, no shining city, no banner waiting, only this. A forgotten ruin beneath a patient sky. Your eyes close, not from exhaustion, but because there is nothing left to see. The snow continues to fall, slowly wrapping you in its quiet embrace, a final, gentle covering, as it has covered everything else. And soon, you too will be part of the silence. Not lost, simply finished. And history will not remember. But tonight, you sit, you breathe, you endure. And that was your last story. The snow has nearly finished its work. You awaken slowly, not from sleep, but from something softer than sleep. A quiet pause where even dreams have grown tired. The broken house around you leans inward, its walls heavy with ice. The roof sags above, its beams groaning faintly under the weight of another night's snowfall. You sit for a long while, watching your breath rise like slow smoke into the cold air. The world outside has become pure white. The ruins are barely visible now, just vague shapes, smooth mounds where sharp stones once stood. The wind has grown kind, not absent, simply tired, like you. It drifts in soft circles through the broken streets, humming gently as it moves. You stand, slowly, carefully. Your legs hesitate, but they remember. Your body has grown impossibly light, not from strength, but from surrender. You walk once more through the ruined streets. No purpose, no goal, only movement. The city barely exists now, only soft curves of snow where once there were walls.
The broken towers have disappeared beneath thick drifts, leaving behind smooth white hills. Here and there, blackened timbers still reach upward like fingers, reminders of old fires, old fears, but even they sag beneath the weight of forgetting. You pause before the old church one last time. Its roof has fully collapsed now. Snow pours inside freely, filling the hollow space where prayers once echoed. The broken cross behind the altar still leans, one arm snapped short. Even symbols grow tired. You step inside. The snow welcomes you gently. Soft waves of white rise around your ankles. You sit where the pew once stood, though the bench itself has vanished beneath the drifts. You simply sit in the snow now, your back resting against nothing. The silence is total. Not lonely, not frightening, simply full. The world has erased itself around you, and you too feel lighter, as if you are becoming part of it, as if you were always meant to. The promises of the crusade, of gold, of glory, of salvation feel absurd now, like distant stories whispered by children who never lived this march. In the end, there was no reward, no shining city, no banner waiting, only this, a forgotten ruin beneath a patient sky. Your eyes close, not from exhaustion, but because there is nothing left to see. The snow continues to fall, slowly wrapping you in its quiet embrace, a final, gentle covering, as it has covered everything else. And soon, you too will be part of the silence. Not lost, simply finished. And history will not remember. But tonight, you sit, you breathe, you endure. And that was your last story.